everyone, Domino's here. There's a sound you should get used to. That's right, we love our customers, and we're not above a little kissing up. And that's why we have a ridiculously good deal. We're giving you half off all pizzas when you order online. Go to Domino's.com, select the coupon, and get all pizzas for 50% off menu price. But hurry, it's for 1 week only, July 10th through July 16th. Oh, yes, we did.
Online only. Limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Offer applies to the pizza portion of your order only.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hello, everybody. It is Friday, and I'm actually doing a Friday afternoon show, and I'm totally excited. Why? Because I'm home and relaxing, and it's a beautiful day outside, and I have a very intelligent, very inspiring, very intellectual gal coming on the show today. So I don't want to keep Julie on hold for too long, so let me just do a couple of really quick announcements so we can get to my interview today. I want to remind everybody about the obvious, which is, of course, I just posted up my 2 different events. You might have noticed the Art is Alive Film Festival is now fully updated. We have dates, we have a location, we have times for all the screenings, and we've now added a section where we're doing a special event. We're showing the 911 film, which is the Man with the Red Bandana, who I just interviewed yesterday, director Matthew Weiss. That's his project. We'll be showing that, and we are also lucky enough to be having Sari Singer coming, who happens to be a survivor of a terrorist attack, actually. She was the lady I interviewed who was on the bus in Jerusalem who survived the attack. So definitely, if you can, October 26th to October 28th is the film festival. Come 1 day, come 3 days. It would make me very happy, and I don't want to forget to mention this. Again, another guest on the show, Nikki Sheridan, was on, and she, of course, as you know, works with the homeless in New York City. So keep in mind, for all of my screenings, please bring a pair of socks to donate. All those will be given to Nikki Sheridan, and she can take those to the homeless. So that's my festival in New York City. In case everybody forgot, my festival in Wisconsin is going on this month, September 27th and 28th at Inspiration Studios in West Dallas. We're screening 22 films instead of 27 films, and we're doing 2 panels instead of 4 panels in New York City. Sadly and unfortunately, we can only do 2 Q&As in Wisconsin because 2 of the directors are available here, which is nice. So again, status quo, same scenario. Please bring me your socks. Please bring me your attention, et cetera, et cetera. So please make it a point to go ahead to either one of those. I also don't want to forget to remind everybody that, no, I'm not going to New York this weekend because, of course, I'm working on the events, sadly. So the trade-off is I'm going to be at the farmer's market this weekend. And why? Because sometimes I like to push my chili and my soup, which I'm sure that Julie could do circles around me. But anybody in town, Heartland, go out to Heartland, Pauling Avenue. We're going to be located in the parking lot right across the street from the bar that I can't remember the name of. That's great, journalist girl. I'll look it up for you guys. I'll put it on the show page and my personal Facebook page. Starts at 10 o'clock, goes to 1 o'clock, but all sorts of different vendors. You've got the regular vendors like Norwex, et cetera, and then you've got home goods. You've also got people that are growing their own produce, and, of course, I'm bringing truffles and chili and soup. So come by and say hi. Come by and win yourself a ticket. I'm giving away, 2 sets of tickets for my film festival. So just stop by. 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. It's Pauling Avenue. It's the Heartland Farmers Market. You will not be disappointed. So without further ado, I'm sure Julie is tired of listening to me, so let's listen to her instead and get her on the line. Hi, Julie.
Hi, how are you?
Were you listening to me going on and on and on and on and on?
I was, and you know what? I smiled and chuckled so many times. First of all, it's gorgeous here in New York, too, so I'm also enjoying a lovely work-from-home day. And I was listening to you talk about fall farmers markets. Oh, my God. I know. I had a hard time letting go of summer, but I'm now fully embracing fall. I'm just diving right in.
Oh, definitely. And it's so nice, and I think people forget that, I only do that once in a great while because I'm a journalist and a radio host, and now I'm in film, so I don't have time to do the farmers markets anymore, but people always nag me, the food's good, take it out there. And I feel so bad because these girls work so hard to produce food or other things, and it's their livelihood for a few months, and then when the attendance is so low, I'm like, it's frustrating. So
I know. It's always nice to support somebody like that, yeah.
Exactly. So I said to Mary, I'm going to talk about it every day on the show. Why? So hopefully people will come. I'll throw in my film festival tickets so they can go to 2 days' worth of films for free. So I'm like, come and do this and this and this. So I'm trying to get her numbers up because she's a bad, lovely woman. And, I've got about 60,000 listeners, and at least a couple of them are here in Wisconsin, I hope. So we'll get that. Well, we're here to talk about all your food, not mine, because you're going to run circles around me, and I'm already intimidated. So thanks for coming on and scaring me already. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, no. I was excited. First of all, you're in New York City, and that's going to be my eventual home. So I want to ask the very first question about that. as it relates to New York City, because, of course, you're there right now, and I never get there enough. So I'm curious to ask, because you know many aspects about food, among many other things. So I want to ask you for a recommendation. I've kind of gotten stuck in the rut of going to Little Italy all the time because I love Italian food, but that means that I oftentimes don't venture out somewhere for something different. So if I were to ask you to recommend some place to try, and I know it's hard in New York because there's so many, but just something maybe out of the ordinary or different, or something maybe where some of the food you cook may be parallel to a particular place.
You know, I had an immediate favorite that jumped out at me that I recently went to named Lilia out in Williamsburg. So first of all, I would encourage you to venture out into Brooklyn a bit, just because it's like there's so many creative, interesting things going out there. And like you said, it breaks you away from being in sort of the Little Italy rut. And I'm a huge fan of Lilia's the restaurant, because the chef is named Missy Robbins, and she's wonderful. She went to the same culinary school I did. She had worked in Chicago for a spell and cooked for the Obamas when they were there. And she's an amazing chef. She's incredible. She had and she's a young, strong, smart, wonderful woman. I'm always a big Go Girl proponent. She had one of the first restaurants, actually the only female executive chefs run restaurants in the Time Warner Center. It was like this big development with very, very high-end restaurants in Manhattan. She just opened her own place out in Williamsburg, and it's like rustic, authentic Italian, and lots of like really cool, creative use of vegetables in an Italian way. And I believe a brick oven. I really loved the meal there. So that right now is the one that I've been recommending to everybody. Yeah.
Cool. I like that.
Ask me anytime. I can't wait for you to move here. You can ask me anytime. I love doing this.
Oh, my God. I love there's just so many elements of the city, but I'm kind of scared, because I'm a Midwestern girl. I'm in Wisconsin, so I've built this career here, and I'm just waiting for my kids to grow up. We have like 5 more years or so, and then the boys will be grown and then we'll school. And so it's just, I'm nervous. You guys are big there. Like, I've not even been to all 5 boroughs yet. I'm making my way through. Like, I'm going different places, different areas. But it's overwhelming. Yeah. There's a lot going on there.
It is. It's big.
Crazy.
But you know what? New Yorkers are nicer than you realize, I think, right? Have you found that one?
Oh my God, yes.
Feedback from people, too. Yeah. I think we're used to being in each other's space. So we're like, hey, what's up? There's always that funny, like, let's not make eye contact, and certainly not on the subway. But I think in, like, day-to-day life in New York City, everybody's really friendly. I actually live right outside of New York in a cute little town called Hoboken. It's a little mile square sort of mini city. And, you've heard of it? Like the home of Frank Sinatra and baseball.
Yes, I want to ask you. I got a big question for you, because you know what? Nobody's answered my question, and I know Julie's going to do it today. I knew that about Hoboken because I'm a huge Sinatra fan. Now, here's my problem with this. So I come to New York City, and I went to Hoboken, and guess what I found out, Julie? Nobody sings Frank Sinatra there. It's killing me. I'm like, this is the birthplace of Frank Sinatra, and I couldn't even find somebody to sing me Frank Sinatra. What's going on?
Oh, okay.
What's that?
Okay, so here's what you're going to come to. Hoboken, it has this, like, gorgeous skyline view of Manhattan, right? It's right on the Hudson River. And in the summertime, the town does this amazing programming, and they actually have, like, a Sinatra sing-off contest that you absolutely have to come to. And I'll host you. I'll make us cocktails. We'll hang out here, and then we'll go. Yeah. So they have all of these, like, local talents just come up and do, like, basically covers of Sinatra, and then everybody votes to see who the winner's going to be. I think that's the event you should come to.
Oh, my God, that's so cool. Is it in fall or is it in summer? Do you know?
Summertime. Yeah. So just take a vacation out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Then we could figure out the best place for you to live. We'll have so much fun. Definitely.
Oh, my God, she's so cute. Listen to her. She's
kind
awesome.
of a party girl. Yeah, if you haven't already picked up on that, I'm, like, sort of a party girl, and I love, like, spreading the fun to everybody.
I totally get it.
Thing.
I did. And I've, and when you research somebody because they're coming on your show, I've stalked you. So I've seen all sorts of different pictures and things that you've said and read, et cetera. Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
So I'm going to ask you some interesting questions. That's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. So I'm like, did you really want to come on a radio show where a person's like, so tell me about yourself. I see you're originally from Hoboken. Well, anybody can read a bio. You know what I mean? So hopefully by the end of the day, it'll be like, oh, my God, I totally want to be with this girl at 2 a.m. That's what I hope. That's our dream here. Not today, but in the future, fortunately. Okay, so I'm going to jump around a little bit in terms of what you do for a career and on and off and all sorts of different things. Clearly, I want to make a distinction right off the bat, which is it's not like you woke up and decided that you were going to do your current profession right off the bat, because I know that you have a bachelor's degree and that you went to school and that you're an educated woman. As a matter of fact, folks, just in case you want to know, which I probably can't pronounce this is it Rensselaer? Polytechnic
Yes, I'll do a
Institute,
shout
and she's
out
laughing.
to my,
You know what that means?
well, because a lot of people have a hard time pronouncing it. I'm sure I did too. Yes, and it's a kind of a running joke. It goes by RPI, but it's a very well-known engineering school in upstate New York called Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I'm also a giant nerd, I should tell. I'm like a party girl. I was a nerd. It was the first,
yes, I
believe
know.
the first engineering school in the country. So it was really, really cool to go there. Yeah, and I have a bachelor's and master's in engineering from Rensselaer. So
you bet.
Spent a lot
and then,
of time
course,
there.
you went on to the Institute of Culinary Education. So before we get to the culinary stuff, I want to start by the beginning portion here, which is the engineering component, because it's an interesting dynamic. I don't think people understand this, but I believe there is a definitive link between you can link a technical art such as engineering and make that into being artistic, whereas with culinary stuff, that's an art form in and of itself. Food, making it is an art form. But you can also do that on a technical side, can you not? Is there not some artistic or creative component to engineering? I know it sounds geeky, but I believe that that's the case.
Yeah.
I believe that you can do something like that. Am I wrong here?
Oh, no, definitely. And what's interesting, so I went to engineering school. I was sort of that kid who was good in math, good in science, not sure what to do. You take one of those little, fill in the bubble tests, and it comes out, it spits out engineer. And I said, sure, that sounds great. Who knows when they're 17 years old what they want to do. But I knew right away that I wanted to do, it was called industrial engineering. It was the practice I studied. And what's cool about that, it's the interaction of people, sort of new. I'm like, you know what, I'm not the kind of person who's going to be sitting at a drafting table or by themselves just designing. I need people around me. I need that people energy. And I love that whole interaction. And I think there's so much creativity there. And that was the kind of engineering that I did for pretty much all through my 20s. For about 10 years, I was a practicing engineer. I worked in manufacturing plants. I did management and technology consulting, traveling all over. But seriously, my secret love was always food and cooking. I just didn't have, I was thinking about this before I called in. I think it's interesting in life how sometimes the older you get and the more you go through it, the more willing you are to be your authentic self and really go for it. I almost couldn't admit it to myself. I got a lot of, sort of sounds funny, but engineering shaming. You're not going to use those degrees. You're going to go and cook. And it's been interesting, this full cycle, because now my business is going so well and I love what I do. I'm having so much fun. And to get back to your original point, absolutely. Engineering involves a lot of creativity when you're designing a new system or designing a new process. You really have to, if you're going to be good at it, you better be thinking outside of the box. And especially if it involves how people are going to interact with what you're designing. And then clearly, jumping that over to cooking and food, I love the idea of, and something that I really focus on a lot when I develop recipes and teach people how to cook, is streamlining it, making it simple, showing them a cool, clever trick, and getting creative again about, it's really funny. I don't think I've even articulated it until this talk with you, people and process. That's just really what cooking is, right? Plus the deliciousness and the fun.
Oh, of course, without a doubt, definitely. Now, this is interesting because when I was researching you, one of the things I found out about you, I had a very parallel idea at one point in my life, and I said, you know what, when I grow up, I want to do this. And you wanted to do the same thing, which I found interesting because I said to myself, you know what, I wonder if she's ever going to go forth and do this, because I might, because we both apparently at one point wanted to open a bed and breakfast. I thought that would be the coolest thing in the world, because I'm a diehard romantic, and I'm like, dude, this is awesome, and I can cook decently. But I'm so busy right now, I can't even breathe. So I'm like, when am I going to do this? When I'm 80? I'm not really sure. But I'm like, how cool is that? She totally wanted to open a bed and breakfast. So now you do the food component left, right, and sideways. So this is the perfect time for you. I say you go and open that place. Just saying.
You know what's funny? I had a really great instructor. I did the culinary arts and culinary management programs at the Institute of Culinary Education in Manhattan. And he started out, the management program professor was wonderful. He started out of the gate saying, who here wants to open a B&B? And so many, starry-eyed people raised their hands. And he said, sure. Okay, I encourage you to go borrow one for a weekend and see, or even a month, I think he was saying, and see what it feels like, almost like borrowing a pet. Sometimes when people are grappling with, should we get the puppy or not, you joke, why don't you borrow someone else's pet? Yeah. So to be honest, I really love the way that my business and my career has played out, because I consult with a lot of different really cool food brands and develop great, interesting, fun content for their customers and their clients, and I get to share all these fun and cool cooking tips and tricks, but my weekends are my own and my personal time is my own. So I still have that fantasy about a B&B, but I think maybe I'll be the person like borrowing it from somebody for a while.
Note to self,
You know what I'm
Cindy,
saying?
if you open, Julie will want to borrow. Got it.
Borrow.
Okay.
I'll come
I
hang
just
out
thought
when
that
you're
was cool.
yeah. When you want to go on vacation, we'll tag team. I'll come sometimes and you can you know what I mean? We'll run it together.
That would be absolutely awesome. That is cool. I love that. Of course, at this rate, I don't know because, well, you need a boyfriend or a love life, etc. Speaking of which, I have to ask the golden question. Why? Because when I post up information about my guests, people look at it, and males do. So, of course, you're beautiful on top of talented. Great. Now I feel like more of a loser. So I have to ask Julie, because I've been asked to ask Julie, are you currently taken? Because I, in my research, could not confirm or deny said question.
Oh, interesting. I am taken. Yes, I do have a boyfriend, and he's wonderful. He actually loves to cook and entertain as much as I do, and is a great taste tester and participator in what I do. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I was such a late bloomer. I still turn beet red when people pay me that sort of compliment. So thank you.
But it's true. I mean, because I've looked at enough pictures of you to know this. But then, like I said, I think oftentimes, people want to see who's coming on, learn a little something about them, et cetera. And I've seen all these different pictures. And you're not the typical New Yorker. And folks, if you're listening, if you've been to New York enough times, I'm starting to get the deal. Like an Upper East Side looks like this. Greenwich Village person is kind of like this. Staten Islanders, sounds or looks like this. So to me, you're almost kind of a mixture of the Hamptons and Greenwich Village. Does that make sense? Hopefully you don't find that offensive.
Wow, that's flattering. Well, one thing is, I'm like, wow, definitely. I love the whole like funkiness and artsiness and interesting. Like I love the Village, and I'm a total beach bum. I actually recently bought a beach place down in Asbury Park on the Jersey Shore.
Nice.
I must have this thing with towns with like musicians from the towns. That's where Bruce got his start, and it's this really cool like Brooklyn at the beach vibe with great restaurants and cocktail bars. And I've been doing, the place I bought has this gorgeous kitchen. I bought it from this really lovely interior decorator who is doing it up just for herself. And I've been doing Facebook Live cooking videos in the kitchen. And I'm kind of in this like pinch myself mode that I get to cook and present in this like really, really pretty kitchen. So I get what you mean about the Hamptons. You know, it's funny, if you did you ever played the, like, what celebrity do you get the most? I get, and this is going to date me a little bit, but that's okay. I think it's funny. I get Elizabeth Shue all the time. That I'm sort of that, like, bubbly, every girl who, like, you're friends with, and she's, like, that's the one that I get the most. I always find that very funny. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's awesome. I mean, it's not flattering, you know what I mean? It's not like they're comparing you to, like, well, I don't know who, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's sweet.
I'm not icy. I am anything but icy. I'm like, well, this is the other one that somebody recently did with me. Like, what kind of dog, what breed? Have you ever seen those kinds of surveys or those kinds of, like, what kind of dog? I always joke that I'm a golden retriever. I come, like, running up, hey, what are we going to do? Let's play. Let's do this. That's kind of my whole vibe.
Oh, my God, listen to you. You are too cute. My goodness. Okay, so now, folks, that you're all disappointed, well, the males anyways, that she's not single, we can move on to the other component of her life. Because oftentimes I talk about the fact that I believe, again, correlation's important, meaning that I think that we are better people professionally if we have a really great backing personally. And I know also that I'm certain that your children are a big bonus and an asset as it relates to heart value and head value, et cetera. So tell us a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, about your kiddos and how similar they are to you in terms of do they share your creative side, et cetera?
Oh, definitely. Sure. They're my biggest fans. They're like the biggest supporters of my career. I have the two sweetest daughters. They're going to be, my younger daughter's going to be 13 in October, which is nuts to me, and my older daughter 15. And they will like text and check in and, oh, Mommy, they know I'm doing this interview right now and they can't wait to listen to it. You know, they understand what I do. Listen, well, yeah, exactly. They, you know what I mean? They also, like, I get to pull them in on what I do. I'm a big embracer of new technologies and new things. So like I said, I've been dabbling with doing a whole like Facebook Live cooking series where I'm teaching people new cooking tricks or new recipes, and I'll give them little roles, like you're the director and you're the art director. So my younger daughter is definitely more technical like me. She does Girls Who Code. She's very, very organized. And my older daughter is very artistic, like excellent photographer. I have her help me with things for my Instagram sometimes, like figuring out which picture is lit the best and that. So, and they definitely love being my guinea, which is adorable. Like from a very young age, they kind of had no choice. It was like, do you like this version or this version or this version or this version? And I taught them how to have really, I don't know how you would put this, I guess, like not sensitive palates, but discerning palates to be able to decide, like, I like this texture, I like this flavor, and really appreciate food.
Oh, cool. And what's nice is I get what you're saying. I ask my boys are a little bit younger, they're 11 and 13, but I ask them all the time, like, hey, look at this movie really quick for me, or hey, check out this person that I'm interviewing. What should I ask them about this or this? You know what I mean? I think it kind of makes them feel important, and it gives them a sense of recognition that we value their opinion, that it's necessary, that it's needed, that it's not like we look at them like they're inconsequential as it relates to your career. Because I think it's important to teach them early to blossom that creativity and to get involved with things and get hands-on with stuff, even if you don't necessarily understand it or, you're getting to that point. You know what I mean? So, I see your children.
And they're proud of you. They get excited when you have a success. Like it's great to have them, included in that and give them inspiration about the kinds of, maybe not the exact same career, but that you can have a career that you're excited about and you really enjoy and you really love. I think it's important for kids to see that.
You betcha. Well, without a doubt, certainly. Well, except for some of us, because you get to have a boyfriend and you're happy and it's great. And the minute I say I'm having a boyfriend, they're like, no. That's all I ever hear. No. And they don't like any of them. So I'm like, yay. So I'm jealous because you'll have something else never have ever at this rate. Just kidding. I'm working on it.
Never say never. All right, we're dropping never.
I know. It's hard. Don't you find in your industry, because we're in relatively similar industries, and once you become more involved in entertainment venues and things like this, it's just hard. I think it's difficult for partners sometimes because the expectations, the long hours, the people you associate with, it's hard. It's tough. You have to learn how to balance. Balance is very important.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So I just need to, I need to, but I do have someone in New York City that I have a huge crush on. So I'm hoping one of these days he just gets it. Otherwise I'll just move there and then I'll have the rest of my life like, hi, hello, here I am.
We're going to come up with some kind of ruse when you visit.
No.
We'll get together. I'll host something. We'll make this happen.
You're too funny. So now I know that you do other things besides the food thing, so we're going to accent on that before we get to the food point, because I think it's important, folks, just so you guys know, and you, of course, as a guest, I'm not minimizing whatsoever the abilities that you have relative to your cooking, but the reality is I think people get so stuck on one element of your life that they forget that you do all sorts of other things. So I want to make sure that I'm diligent and describe all parts of you, if that works for you.
Sure.
Now, I want to talk about the writing component. Why? Because I myself have been a long-time author. And so we want to speak a little bit about your writing in terms of, if I were to ask you if it's a safe assertion to guess that you would prefer to be in a kitchen 24 hours a day, or would you prefer to be writing about the creations that you make more often than not?
What's funny, can I add a third dimension to that? I've always said it's just like I don't want to be buried at the drafting table as the engineer. I love tinkering in the kitchen. I love it, like getting in there and developing new recipes. But the really like sweet, juicy part for me is sharing that with other people and seeing that light go off, whether I'm presenting. And I like to say that, like, whether I write it or do a video about it or write a recipe about it, or like whether it's like written content or a recipe you can follow, everything I do has an element of teaching to it. And for me, that's like my sweet spot where I really, really want to be. It's like giving that information to somebody else. But yes, I would agree. My math SAT was a lot higher than my verbal, so I would say that being like sitting down and writing isn't necessarily. I do it a lot. I've written a ton of, probably what you saw, a lot of like posts for Bed Bath & Beyond about entertaining, and Shape Magazine about like cooking healthily, and I'm doing things for Real Simple right now where I'm writing buying guides for cooking gear. And that's actually really fun. I showed an example to my daughters. They were complaining about some homework assignment they had. And I said, hey, look, like I have to put tables together for work too. Like, check out what I'm doing. Like, this is exactly why you need to know how to put your information together. Yeah.
You bet. Absolutely. And so, of course, I'm curious to ask, because you brought that up, because I know that you actually serve as being an entertaining expert for Bed Bath & Beyond. So one of the things I think about is when you're writing this material, do you ever get a chance to get tons of feedback? Like, some of us who write, we never really find out what do they think of this book or this or this. Are you getting that positive feedback or suggestions, or do people come to you and say, hey, we want to hear you talk about how you do this or this or this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, what's funny? Even before I went to culinary school, I really was that person who was constantly throwing parties, constantly designing menus for other people's parties. Like, I was the friend you would call and say, oh, my gosh, I'm hosting brunch on Sunday. I know I'm going to make, let's just throw out a ham. And I know my friend is bringing this. What else should I bring? And I've always also brought into entertaining, and I do this through my writing too, that whole efficiency side of things. Like, I've done videos and written things on how to set up a really great buffet to take all of the, like, as much of the workload off of you as you can. So I think more of the feedback, the interface or the blog that Bed Bath & Beyond hosts doesn't really have a lot. It doesn't seem like a lot of people chatting on it, but most of the feedback that I've been getting have been people in my real life when I pass tips on or share things with them. And even in the Facebook Live cooking videos that I've been doing, it's on my Cooking with Julie Facebook page. The comments I've been getting, and people in my real life say, I never thought to use a resting rack, or I never thought to. So I feel like it's always those like little nuggets that people really enjoy. I love getting that feedback.
That's awesome. That is. And plus, too, what's nice about that is oftentimes somebody will write a play, for instance, and then somebody goes off and they direct it and you have people on stage, and oftentimes you don't always necessarily be able to get that full hands-on sort of impact or impressions from other individuals.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that you're able to do that.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Again, in my research, I was unable to clarify this, so I'm guessing at this point in time that Julie has not written herself a cookbook at this point, and I'm listening to you talk about this, and I'm wondering to myself, I wonder if she would even consider doing something like that, because it's a pretty big undertaking, and not only that, like I said, I thought I'd hear you say, oh, my God, I can't wait to write that next thing about this and this and this. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I get excited about writing about anything. You know what I mean? So I'm curious about that. Have you considered that? Because that's a wealth of knowledge for people that are trying to come up with new and interesting ideas.
Definitely. I have thought about it. And, I mean, honestly, I've been really blessed, and I've worked hard as well, and I've had a lot of great experiences. I finished culinary school and got into this, I guess, about 7 years ago, and my business has grown so much with all the work I do with Weight Watchers and Bed Bath & Beyond and different clients that I've been on the side developing tons of my own recipes, and I have lots of my own little, like, tips and tricks. And I'm just now getting to a point, I think, in my career where I have a really good sense of, like, this is the unique angle that I can share with all of you. And for me, the way I like to say it is that I'm just this big, giant, happy geek who's so excited that she gets to work in the field she always wanted to work in, that I get to play with all of these recipes and dabble with these ingredients and try all this different cooking gear, that I'm going to share the most important points with you as a home cook or a home entertainer to make your life easier. So I do think there's a really cool cookbook there, because there isn't like an upbeat, fun-loving, feminine, nerdy point of view, like sort of an Elton Brown, but a woman, right? Like someone who you can relate to, who gets that you're trying to throw a party. And the tagline I like to use or joke around about, and it's the truth, and when I host, I'm absolutely this way, I'm all about people feeling like a guest at their own party versus being buried in the kitchen and sweating it out. So I've learned all of these cool things over my years of entertaining, all of the recipes I've written, all of the work I've done, all the cooking demos I've done. And to me, making people's lives easier and more fun and making them feel cool and feel good about themselves cooking versus, that whole, like, Pinterest fail feeling when you get a recipe, follow it all the way through. It's like there's like boards and boards of them. For me, that would be my biggest fail. I want to make people feel good through the work that I do. And I do think, to circle back to your question, like, I do think that there's a cookbook there, and I'm definitely leaning towards working on one.
Lovely. And the other thing, of course, I want to mention this, too, because, again, it's not listed here, but I would be shocked to hear you tell me no to this question, which is, I can't imagine where have you done formalized classroom teaching or done workshops or things relative to this? Because I guess I just haven't seen a whole lot of that from you.
Oh, yeah, actually. So it's funny. I worked at my culinary school to earn free tuition to go there. I didn't want to take out student loans at that stage of the game. I had 2 little girls at home, and so it's the biggest recreational cooking school in Manhattan. And I was a classroom assistant all the way through, and then I actually launched my own business in Hoboken doing cooking classes for moms and for kids. So I've done lots and lots of those. I designed like multiple courses. I was doing sort of like the after-school cooking class thing. This was like as I was finishing culinary school and starting to really, it takes some time, and I'm lucky that I got to take a little bit of time through school and after. I was personal chefing and teaching, and then it sort of evolved into the business I have now, where I consult with companies and create recipes and cooking videos and content for them. But I love to teach. For me, that's the most fun part of it. You get to see the spark in people's eyes. I actually had a really fun experience recently teaching. I was involved in, and I'm doing another one, and this is the kind of work project that people get really mad at me when I tell them that it's a work project. Even I pinch myself that I get to do this for work. Weight Watchers is launching these new wellness cruises where they're offering a whole vacation experience to their members, where it's like a Weight Watchers menu with Smart Points. And I went on the inaugural cruise in May and got to fly down early and teach all these international chefs how to make the Weight Watchers recipes that I had written, which was like so fun. And then they served them to this like audience of like 600-700 members, and I got feedback from them on the recipes. And then I did live cooking demos for up to 200 members at a time. And in my Julie style, I insisted on like serving a cocktail at each one. I've written lots of cocktail recipes for different clients, including Weight Watchers. Like, there are ways to lighten up cocktails and keep it, keep everything in check and still have a great time. And for me, I really will say that experience, like, of the people that were in the audience, a lot of the ladies and gentlemen that I met, they were so, grateful to have an insider view on doing lightened up and doing healthy cooking. And I've stayed in touch with them over Facebook, and they'll reach out to me. These are people I met in May. They'll reach out and say, hey, we're getting together for Labor Day weekend, and we need a fun, like, punch to bring or cocktail to bring to the pool. Do you have any easy recipe ideas? So, again, for me, that whole gratifying, making people's lives better through the work that I love to do is just wonderful. And I'm going on another cruise in November, right around my birthday, for Weight Watchers again, and similar. I know it's going to be so fun. I wrote like 20 new recipes that we're going to serve in addition to the other ones, and it's just such a fun job I have.
That's absolutely awesome. I love it. And I did know about that because I had read about that, and that's why I said that. I was like, you just have the personality and the skill set to be able to offer to so many people, in a teaching capacity. That's why, of course, I wanted to kind of throw that out there, obviously. Now, one of the tidbits that I want to talk about, and I came across, was, first of all, she said this lovely story where she was talking about one of her family members, and she had this delicatessen, or a delightful delight, as I would call it, which is a rhubarb crunch. First of all, I want to know what a rhubarb crunch is because I have no clue. And I read this story about, my grandmother, she made this, da-da-da-da. So tell us the story about your grandmother and her rhubarb thing, because I think this is a really neat thing.
You know what? It's funny how when you really look back on your life, you say, oh, yeah, the signs were always there. I get it now. It just took me a while to, like, recognize it and actually do it. So growing up, we had a rhubarb patch in our backyard. My dad actually kept a garden and made pickles and salsas and things like that. And my grandma, his mom, loved to use the rhubarb to make a rhubarb crunch, which is basically like the way she did it anyway. There are all different definitions of crunch versus crisp versus crumble. But her recipe as a child, that was very comfort food for me. Again, like, how many kids think of rhubarb as a comfort food? There's a sign right there, Julie. Like, rhubarb and things like eggplant were comfort foods. Eggplant parm from my other grandma was my other favorite food. So she had this recipe, and she would use the rhubarb from my backyard garden, and I would love to watch her bake. She was a great baker. I would love to watch her cook, and I decided at age 7 or 8 that I was going to make it, only I was going to, like, Julie-fy it and tweak the recipe and redo the whole thing. And you probably saw it. I actually have the original little recipe card in my 8-year-old little girl handwriting that I wrote. It was like the very first recipe I ever developed, and I was so proud of it. And after that, like, my dad would always have me make it that way for him. And again, I just think that sometimes And don't they say that, like, if you do what color is your parachute or you go to, like, a life coach, they often say, like, go back to when you were younger. Like, what kinds of things did you just want to do that brought you joy, that sparked joy in your life? And that's the path you should follow.
Gotcha. Amen to that one, too. And I agree with you 150%. And it is kind of neat, isn't it, how sometimes the simplest, those things to other people may seem so insignificant, but over time it just stands out as something special to you, kind of a precursor to much bigger and better things, obviously, as you've gone on to here, I see. I was going through some of her recipes, and how ironic, if you know me, imagine what the top two were for me, which were Lose Your Shoes Margarita and the strawberry cheesecake shots. I was like, oh, my God, she has pictures of both of these. I'm in love with this girl already. Why? Because, well, they're booze, first of all. We know that I like those easy cocktails. Well, and the other thing is this. Okay, so since we're on that topic, because she did post these on her Facebook page, and I'm looking at these different things and how she's putting this together and talking about this. And so I have to ask this, because I was speaking to some ladies about this yesterday. I've been trying to find I'm a wine drinker. So, I drink lots of things, but wine is my big thing. And after a while, I don't want to say you can't tire of wine, but I want to try to do something different. And I'm sure my listeners will appreciate this comment or question. I want to try something different, not like a slushy, but and I've cooked with wine before, but maybe just something that I could add to a wine where you could drink it and it's not straight wine, but it's a little different. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you are. Absolutely. Well, do you like bubbly? Do you like Prosecco? There's so many great cocktail recipes.
I do. I'm a Moscato drinker. I'm a Merlot drinker. I mean, I prefer my white, but a good Merlot is nice, too. I guess it just depends on – I've just gotten tired of, let's open up a bottle of wine and have this with maybe some chocolate or whatever have you. And somebody mentioned a wine slushy, and I know there's some variations of things out there, but I want to try to do something that's a little bit different. Right. Plus there's sugar in the wine, so it's kind of like you want to think of that. So I'm like, she's the guru. Let's ask her.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I'm sure you've seen, and if you are into the whole slushy idea, and dry rosés have been so popular for so long, right? Like the tagline rosé all day. And so rosés, my boyfriend and I actually played around with making them this summer. I didn't post a recipe, but I actually should and could. And it's so simple. You just freeze rosé wine in ice cube trays, or you use it in the blender and add frozen strawberries. That was our little aha moment. If you just use the straight up wine, it's going to just, I don't know, it falls a little bit flat. If you want like that really gorgeous bright pink color, which of course you do, and a little bit of sweetness without adding sugar, I love keeping bags of frozen strawberries around. I just find they come in handy for so many, whether it's a smoothie or you can just frost them and make like a Greek yogurt parfait or a topping for a cheesecake shot. Like they just have so much flavor. It's so hard to get great. There's probably like 2 weeks in May or June, depending on where you live, where you can get really good strawberries, right? So, that would be what I would do if you wanted like a slushy. The other thing, now that we're veering more into fall and winter, and personally I don't even care. I love it all year round. I love sangrias for summer or for fall. So if you're doing Merlot, you could totally spin that into a really cool sangria, and you don't have to add a lot of sugar. I would just add some brandy, and here's my little trick at the end of any sangria you do, is why I was asking you about Prosecco too. Always add, whether it's a sangria or a punch. I could go on and on about how much I love punches and punch bowls too, by the way. I'm a giant dork about that stuff, that retro thing. You finish everything with a little bit of bubbly. Either it can be Sprite, it can be club soda, it can be Prosecco, it can be Diet Sprite. It depends on what flavor you want to go on, like if you're adding sweetness or you're adding like citrus, or you just want to add more booze in the Prosecco, or you just want to add like a little lift to your beverage. But for me, that's one of the best tricks when you're doing a cocktail in a dispenser or a punch bowl or a sangria, is to add some bubbly at the end.
Nice.
Is that helpful?
It definitely was quite helpful and elaborate, I have to say. So I'm like, okay, fine, wonderful. Now, before we get into more food-relative things, I want to discuss a couple other items that I saw in here, and meaning some of the other capacities that you work in. A lot of my friends work in the same industry, meaning that they're in business or they're PRs that do work with businesses. And I know oftentimes you've done work with helping with brand consultation. So my question to you relative to this is, if somebody's listening in and they're trying to expand out on their brand, and especially when it comes to things, I find this is just a personal opinion in the food circuit, I think food is always harder to market because of the fact that there is not only just the physical side of it, which is allergies, and now everybody's going gluten and organic and all those different things. But more importantly, I almost think you have to be a specified certain type of person to succeed in this business because there's so many competitors, because there's so many different styles and ways of doing things, and it just seems like the big markets have been established. So talk to our audience a little bit about if they're embarking upon expanding on a brand. Is there a trick to the trade here? Is there maybe easy? What would you, without going into a full elaboration, obviously, because each case is different, how do you recommend that a business in this industry sets themselves apart from others when there's such steep competition in such a very serious industry?
Sure. No, that's a great question. I think I was just talking to somebody, I met with a woman who's representing a new knife brand. So I know that's not food, but let's pretend it is a food. Sure. And she was trying to get more awareness built around it. And one great way, obviously, is to get it into the hands of social media influencers. And I've actually done some sponsored posts for up and coming brands that way, where I'll cook with it, I'll talk about it, I'll write recipes with it. That just gets the word out a little bit more from someone. And obviously you want to find that tribe of influencers that it makes sense for your brand to be working with. Another thing I think that's really important, and I was talking to this colleague and friend who's working on the knife brand, I really think that consumers love having a backstory about a food brand. They want what's the one that it's really inspiring? Dave's Killer Bread. Have you ever seen that? It's like a really cool bread company. I don't work with them in any way. I just like the backstory. He founded a company making all these great breads, but he hires people that are being brought back after incarceration, and he trains them. And it's got this whole. I think that when you're starting a new food brand, if you have a really interesting, feel-good backstory, that just helps get you. It's like anything else. It's like that hook. It gets you a little bit of attention. I mean, obviously, let's just start out. Your product has to be great, right? Let's assume that it's really great. Another way, I actually just did a stint. I don't know if you saw this. This was one of those, pinch me, this is so much fun. I can't believe I'm doing this. But there's a brand called Skinny Pasta that Weight Watchers works with. I've written lots of recipes using it. It's a really cool gluten-free pasta. And I was able to go on QVC using that, talking about that brand and cooking with it. So there's that angle. I think there are a lot of angles. There's partnerships. But honestly, I really think that people want to buy something they're going to feel good about that has a good backstory.
Good answer. See how smart she is? She totally had the right answer, spot on like that. I think she knows what she's doing.
I always warn my clients that, I'm remember I was a management consultant in the past, so my brain can't help but go there.
Right.
I'm this person that wants to cook and do all of this fun cooking stuff for you, but it definitely always goes to the business side of things and, how do we do this better? How do we make this better? How do we grow this more?
Absolutely. Now, I also know on the flip side of the fence that in the past you have done work as both a media spokesperson as well as doing the video talent side of things. So I want you to talk to your audience a little bit about this because obviously people listening in are always looking for people to collaborate with. Talk to the folks a bit about what you bring to the table because when you're in media and video, obviously people are watching you, seeing you. I think it's far more interactive and far more interesting for someone to watch Julie instead of listening, although we're grateful you're listening. But meaning tell the folks what you can offer them in media, being as a spokesperson or doing some so what are the advantages to using you in media versus using you in print?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's that whole enthusiasm that just comes straight through. Like I said, that pinch me. This is a funny story. I've mentioned a few times I've started doing a cooking show, if you will, on my Facebook Live, and I'm going to be starting to do them more regularly. An engineering friend of mine who was my roommate, she's known me since I was 17. We were roommates. She lives in London now. We don't get to see each other a lot. And she watched one recently, and she said, it's Julie. It's still this smart engineer, super professional Julie, but with that, this is so exciting. I can't believe I get to do this. You get that, I have that, glint in my eye when I do everything. So the thing I know that I bring to brands is this different level of professionalism, for sure, right? I'm super prepared. I am crazy organized. An engineer, I can't help but be. I'm efficient. And now in my new career, I've spent so much time learning all different aspects of food media. I'm like a sponge. I love picking up new tricks and learning new things. So I know how to, food style. I know how to talk to your audience. I understand that whole concept of tell them what's in it for them, the audience. So if I'm cooking with, like as you said, if I was going to be a spokesperson or working with a brand and cooking with one of their down and get inside their heads about like, who are you trying to reach? How do they cook? What are their concerns at home? And make sure that all of that comes through in my presentation. So anything but just a talking head who can like cook and talk on camera at the same time. I understand all of the business behind it, but at the same time, like I can't help, I keep saying it. I'm this like giant happy geek who's so excited to get to do this and share this. So that comes through on camera. It really does. And you can't fake that. That's just the real me.
I agree, definitely, without a doubt. And plus, I believe when you're passionate about something and you talk about it, or you're displaying your passion for this, or showing people this with such great zeal and enthusiasm, I mean, you'd be perfect for that, absolutely. So that's absolutely awesome that you offer those sorts of things. See, like 3 more reasons.
Thank
to
you
work
for
with
mentioning that.
That's right there.
That's totally
my job
sweet
here.
spot.
It's important.
I've decided. Yeah. No, thank you.
But it is.
No,
it's
really,
important.
that's absolutely where I'm
that.
headed with this. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, next question, because I don't want to forget about asking this. Just because in the last, not this last year, but the year before, I had actually worked a fancy food show, not as a vendor or anything, but like it was like some promo work or whatever. So could we find you doing something like that, or have you given thought, or have you done that? New York
I've
City
gone
has
to
a
it
fancy
for
food
sure.
show.
Yeah, it's huge and incredible, and it can be. I mean, I don't know how you found it. It can be a little overwhelming. You got to be focused. I enjoy filming.
Oh my God!
One thing I do, it's so much fun. I mean, there's aisles of whatever is the current trend, like whatever the current food thing that you really want. There's like a chocolate aisle. There's everything, bacon, right? I mean, whatever it is that you're really interested in. For me, I actually tend to go. I try to pace myself because there's so many events like this that can be a little overwhelming, and I'm not a buyer. They're very geared for. We want to get the word out about our product. We want people to buy our product. So I like to go to smaller ones that are a little more curated and just hear about things that might fit more with my audience, who tend to be health conscious but love to entertain and like to keep it simple, but they want to feel, I'm big on this too. I think people, I know this, like people like to hear about what's coming down the pike, what's the next cool thing, what's the cool spice that I should be cooking with that'll sort of my cooking up a notch and make me, again, that whole make people feel good about themselves through their cooking. So for me, honestly, like the fancy food show is really, really fun and huge, but I don't know. I mean, I would definitely work with brands if they were there. I'm more about getting that information out to everybody else who doesn't get to go to the fancy food show, so they know what all the cool new things are that are coming out.
Absolutely. Gotcha. I just had to throw that in there because I'm like, oh, yeah, because that's a big New York thing, and I know when I've been there. And, folks, just so you know, wear pant sizes 2 sizes bigger because you're not only going to be fatter when you leave, you're going to be so full it's disgusting. And, I mean, I had to stop, like, midway through. It's insane. It's like literally you either speed eat or you're, like, pacing for your, like, you could be there 2 days, and literally you're still not covering everything.
It's definitely a stretchy pants experience. Yeah, for sure.
It is. It's insane. Okay, so before we get to the food questions, obviously I want to remind everybody that she has been, I mean, and she knows her stuff. Listen to this. She's gone to places I've never even gone. She's been on Food Network. She's done ABC's The Chew. Obviously, of course, she's affiliated with Weight Watchers, Better Homes and Gardens. Obviously, she's been on the Food Network and, of course, QVC. I wanted to go on QVC forever. Is it fun? Is it scary? Are they nice? They look like they might be.
Oh, they're lovely. It was such a fun experience and so fast. That was the fastest 6 or 7 minutes. And again, the business model is interesting. So the host of the show has this quota to meet, and they have to sell this broad variety of products in their 2 to 3 hour show. And they don't really know you or your product always when you go on. You meet them right before you go on. So it was such a great experience. So I'm really excited that I got to do that. And the Chew was a really cool one. So I've been posting. I don't know if you're on Instagram or you're on Instagram.
I am.
Or like if you saw my feed, I've been posting tons of really fun and easy recipes and cooking tips on my Cooking with Julie Instagram. And that was where the Chew, they picked up a recipe of mine recently and they featured it and gave me a shout out. And it was very cool to see like Mario Batali eating my dish and raving about how delicious it was. And I've been talking to them about doing appearances on the show, which would be great too. So
awesome.
anybody
that would
like,
totally be great.
Yeah. So it's a good source. Like for me, my Instagram is a place where I get to play and have fun and post like, hey, I think this is a cool, fun thing, or check out what I just made, and I try to generally give the recipe too, so that anybody that's following me at Cooking with Julie, they can see like, oh, here's this really putting together, or here's this margarita she just made for her girlfriends this weekend, and here's the recipe so I can make it too. That's the kind of thing I love to share.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Cool. Okay, we finally get to talk about food now for the last portion of this. Isn't that awesome? Hopefully I've covered everything else okay so
Let's
far.
do it.
She hasn't hung up yet, so she's still here. I think we're getting somewhere because she's actually on the phone still, so that's an important sign. So in case most of you haven't figured out by now or Googled or gone onto the website, obviously, of course, she is a professional chef. My would venture to guess her first and foremost love is, of course, creating and making all sorts of different food creations. So obviously a bunch of questions that are relative to this. The most important one I should probably start right off the bat, which is when you become a professional chef, just like you do in any profession, like an author or otherwise, oftentimes we're the most neglected. So I had to ask, how often does Julie make something for Julie versus making for the rest of the world or preparing something or showing someone how to do it?
That's a great question. It really is.
Thank you.
There are days when I'm developing recipes and I'm in the kitchen just tinkering all day and playing with food, which is like a very fun thing for me to do and a sweet spot. But I'm certainly not in the mood for dinner that night. It's sort of like I've like grazed my way through the day, and people in my world, like my daughters and my boyfriend, know that. And I often actually, one of the really cool things, I work from home a lot, so I get to like just do that around dinner time or do that on the weekend, and then everybody gets to enjoy the meal. I do love freestyling though, and ironically, it was a zoodles with favas and two ricottas. That was zoodles are zucchini noodles, and if for any listeners who haven't tried them yet, they're really cool, and they have their own unique flavor. They're great for gluten free and low carb and all of that. And for me, that was just pulling things out that were scraps from other work projects and saying, all right, let's do like a little cook-off. What can I make for dinner using this? And it came out really great. So, I do have moments, trust me, where food is just functional. Like I need some breakfast. I'm really hungry. I'm running to the gym. I'm running to a meeting. And again, so that people don't ever feel guilty, like the chef's kids eat chicken nuggets too. I always say that, like the cobbler's kids have no shoes. I do that one. Like my kids eat nuggets and mac and cheese too, because there are definitely days or spells where you're just really, really busy and you need to get dinner together really fast and make something kid friendly. And trust me, that happens in my house too.
Oh God, listen to that. That's too funny. Yeah, that was like the most important thing to ask first, because obviously, like I said, I'm told all the time how you need to take care of yourself first, but oftentimes when you do it professionally, it's kind of second nature that everything else is adherent to everyone else but ourselves. Interesting answer there. Now, I want to talk a bit about, because I know that you do a lot of recipe creation or compilation or giving ideas and throwing all sorts of suggestions out there. So to most of us that are listening out there that do a lot of our own home cooking, if you wouldn't mind giving us the top 2 things that you include in every single recipe that you believe make for the perfect recipe, in your opinion.
Wow. Okay. The top 2 things that I include. I'm going to be such a cheater and start to say, like, can I do 5? But
no,
so
I said 2.
For me, there are 2 ingredients that come up in so many of the recipes that I write that for me are flavor changers that are easy to keep on hand all the time. And I'll just throw these out there to people, because sometimes I find that people aren't cooking with spices as much as they could or should. A spice that I absolutely adore, that I use in so many different recipes in so many different ways, is smoked paprika, or pimenton. I don't know if you cooked with that one. It's a Spanish paprika. You can get it at pretty much every supermarket. It's not like the orange dust that was on like the egg salad at the picnic when you were a kid. It's this really cool paprika made only in Spain, where they smoke the peppers and then pulverize them. So it gives everything this really delicious, barbecue-y, smoky, rich, savory flavor. And I'm telling you, I've used that in everything from marinades and spice rubs for meats. I've used it in dips. I've used it in soups. It just lends like a really, really cool, like not heat spice, but like savory barbecue light heat. That's the best way I can describe it. And another spice that I think plays really, really well with that, well, oh man, see, I want to do 5, but all right, I'll stick to 2. I'll go.
I'm sorry,
this time.
That's not how we're playing that game today. Okay, that the game is not 5, it's 2. Thanks for listening. I just do that just because I not only want to test your skill, which I know you can do, but more importantly, oftentimes what happens is if you give people, I've noticed this, if somebody says to me, tell me the top 3 ways you prevent writer's block. Well, then I almost said almost do what you do, which is no, I'll give you 5 or 6. But then after a while, after the first couple, people lose interest, and they're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it, whatever. So you keep it at 2.
Yeah.
See, I do know my job a little bit. Not a lot. Just
Totally. Of course.
Next question.
The other. Oh, we're done.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Oh, wait, no. You didn't even do the second one. Now I cut her off. Ouch. You may get another one there. Okay, go ahead.
I'll be super speedy on this one. I love pumpkin pie spice, which is a spice that people don't always think to buy, and it's great for this season, and you can use it in sweet or savory dishes. And the thing that's cool about it is you don't have to, it's a blend, it's a spice blend. You don't have to pull out cinnamon and cloves and allspice and nutmeg and ginger. It's got this perfect ratio of all of those spices in the spice blend. And again, I've used it in fruit desserts. You can also use it in butternut squash bisque or to sprinkle over some sweet potatoes. There are a lot of different ways. It just gives that delicious fall flavor to things. So those 2 ingredients I feel like I use over and over again in a lot of my cooking and recipes.
Gotcha. Perfect answer. See what I'm talking about? Geez, she's only got 12 more questions to go. Just kidding. Next question. Again, food relative. These will all be food relative because it's important. Clearly, if I have you on my show, I want to pick your brain for obvious reasons because I'd like to think I cook decently, but it tickles me pink to talk to somebody who is a top-notch chef. One of the things that we talk a lot about is, in my world, by the way, because I had up until recently a seizure patient for about 3 years or so. And so I know there's a lot of moms out there who deal with special conditions, and what I call it is, of course, creations for conditions, meaning would you have some suggestions or recommendations for certain types of creations that you find across the board could be safe for all types of kids? Because it's not just an allergy thing, like the seizure. There's a lot of talk about the ketogenic diet, you know what I'm saying, or with other conditions.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about toxicity in food. In fact, some of my celebrity friends are big on it, people are getting poisoned by food. So I'm just curious on your take, if you could share with your listening audience, are there things out there that you believe or you've heard or people have told you that are safe when it comes to not even so much kids, but even kids, adults, everybody, with conditions that we need to watch for, things that could be more safe?
Right. Well, I honestly think that the best way to eat, and most meal plans, diet plans, health plans, allergy accommodating plans will circle back to veggies and lean protein. Now, some people can't tolerate, or for ethical reasons don't want to eat meat. I understand that, but it's very funny. I don't know many people who have allergies or problems eating different types of vegetables. I do know people with obviously clearly nut allergies, gluten allergies, right? Dairy, soy, all of these things can be such triggers. So I really think that all of us, and there have been so many books written about this, and again, if you look at just about any popular diet plan, they're all going to say we should be really filling our plates with a lot more vegetables. And something I love to do in my recipes, and there are a ton of them on my website, and again, I post on my Instagram. If you prepare vegetables in different ways, you can often get people, younger kids, sometimes have a hard time getting used to eating veggies. If you roast them, I know it sounds so simple and silly, but I've got to tell you, and this is a kind of a running joke, that a lot of my recipes start with line a baking pan with parchment paper, preheat the oven to 450 degrees, toss XYZ vegetable with olive oil, salt, and pepper, and roast until brown and caramelized. So this is the engineer nerd warning everybody. I'm going to get geeky for a minute, but this is what makes the vegetables taste so appealing. It pulls some of the water out of them and condenses their flavor and gives them this sweet, rich nuttiness around them. So to me, again, to answer your question about, I'm not one who's going to weigh in this food is bad or this food is good, but I think everyone can agree that we all need to be eating more vegetables. And for people that do have a hard time getting used to the flavor of things like, say, cauliflower or squash, or if there are vegetables they've just never really enjoyed raw or steamed feeling, and I almost guarantee if you try them roasted, you'll find it's a completely different taste experience and you might enjoy them more.
That's cool. I like that. Thank you. again, another subject of contention depending on who you speak to clearly, because we all live in the world, and even if I'm in Wisconsin versus New York, like for instance, you know, you have the benefit of being able to say, all right, well, tomorrow when I cook, let's see, maybe I could go down to Chinatown and we'll do their market, find some seafood there, and then we'll hop on over to the Outpost and we'll grab something over there. And then for us in Wisconsin, oh, yeah, we'll stop at Woodman's and then we'll go here. Can you give an overall general recommendation of, let's say, on one side of the fence, tell us what some of the best places in terms of where you find some of the best food to cook with, recommendations on one side, and then maybe give us one where, for whatever reason, because you are a professional chef, maybe some telltale signs of places that maybe not necessarily to not boycott per se, but meaning I know sometimes in the past we've heard some things out in the news about, you know, finding fresh produce, finding great meat, making sure that stores have what they need. Do you know what I mean? Give us some recommendations in terms of where we should be getting our food products, because obviously if you don't have healthy food products, your end result is not going to be as great as it needs to be, or healthy for that matter.
Right. I agree. It's funny. It's what, my immediate reaction was the first thing we spoke about when I came on, is local farmers markets. You really usually can't go wrong with them. It's like the freshest, the best picks, the seasonal, you know where it comes from. Obviously wash all of your produce and all of that. But a lot of farmers markets are also broadening and offering dairy products and meat too, which is very cool. So you're supporting your local community and you're buying something local. And if someone's going to stand there at a farmer's market and be like selling you this steak or this chop or this meat that they just raised and slaughtered and prepared, like they believe in that, and unless you hear otherwise, I have a lot of trust for them. I will say this, I do buy organic meat and dairy pretty much as a rule. That for me, there's just, it scares me a little bit. There's been so much in the press about antibiotics and the way they treat animals. And, you know, for me, if I'm eating animals that haven't been treated well and they have all kinds of chemicals in them, and it can't be good for your system and your body. For me, that was just like a logical leap. And I do buy a good amount of organic, like greens and things like that. A really great source, those are the fresh things that people are looking for. Don't discount Amazon. It's been interesting to me. Sometimes when I'm cross-testing, I cross-test recipes too, like to make sure they work well and to tweak them and make them even better sometimes. The function I do, are written in call for something that I can't find in like the little markets I have in Hoboken, or even if it's like a interesting ethnic product and I don't have time to run into the city and go to the cool little like whatever market in Brooklyn or in Queens, Amazon has a really great selection. And, you know, if you have like a Prime membership, it can be there the next day or certainly by the weekend, even if you don't. So, you know, for people, because I always bear in mind when I'm writing recipes, and again, on that Weight Watchers cruise, you know, there were people from all over the country, and I try to be very respectful of saying, like, look, I'm lucky I live in this urban area where I have access to so many things, but it's not cool to exclude people from having fun with their cooking by always doing recipes where they have this like laundry list of exotic ingredients that are hard to find. So I try to keep them to a minimum in my recipes, and when they are something a little exotic, I'll try to put a substitution or a note, and then even shout out and say, like, you could get this on Amazon if you do want to play with that ingredient.
That's awesome. Thank you. That was great, actually, because sometimes you get stuck in a rut. Like tonight, for instance, after this interview, I'm going to Woodman's to go grocery shopping. I guarantee you I will come home $50, easily $50 over what I want to spend. Why? Because I'm hungry and there's nothing in the house. And moreover, I'm tired and I feel like crap and I have a cold coming on. So you know what that's like. It's like, this is the exciting life of what people call a celebrity. They call me a celebrity or a public figure, and I'm like, isn't this exciting and sexy? I'm going to Woodman's at 6 o'clock at night on a Friday. Woo-hoo!
It's going to be so fun.
Next food question, critique lady. We talk a lot about this oftentimes in some of the circles that I'm in terms of moms and cooks and people in general. Talk to me a little bit about, in terms, obviously, some of the tools that we use, the biggest component being, obviously, the type of oven that you're using. I notice oftentimes I get yelled at for this. I'm still one of those women that will take something out of the freezer and to get the process going, because I have a very busy life. Of course, I use a microwave, and I go ahead and I, thaw to a certain point. Some people start the oven off early. I never do. I'm like, it's 350, 1 hour, boom, done. So let's talk a bit about how bad my habits probably are to the professional chef, which is tell the folks about how important it is to either utilize or stay away from putting food in the microwave or using the microwave as a constant, meaning we're in a hurry, blah, blah, blah. How safe is that for us? And then more importantly, in terms of preheating or pre-prep, how important is that to make the meal better?
Okay. Let's see. I'll start with the microwave. And it's funny with me. I tend to be very, I don't want to say relaxed. I'm not sure of the right word. I don't react to every single bit of news that comes down the pike when it comes to food and health because it's constant and relentless. And I've seen people kind of go a little bit like overboard with some of that. But I have, what happens with me is I'll hear something over and over again enough and I finally say, and now it's time to pay attention to it. And the one sure. thing that I am very, very against and don't do when I use the microwave or anything in the microwave is plastic. And I know that they say some plastics are safe and other plastics aren't, but I really don't like cooking food. If you're just warming it up for a minute, it's fine. But the whole idea of like, if you had like something frozen in a plastic container, here's my little trick to get it out. Just run it under hot water. Keep the lid on. Let's say you have like a plastic, storage container. Run it under hot water and just keep shaking it upside down with the lid on until you can feel like that giant ice cube of chili like cut loose. And then just put it in a glass bowl if you're going to microwave it or put it in an oven-safe pot. Yeah, because what's happening, I'm going to really be a geek now. It's like this thermodynamic thing. The hot water is going to hit the outside, like the surface of the frozen food through the container and melt it just enough so you can get it out of the plastic. So that's something I would encourage everybody to do. And then with the oven preheating, you know what, if you're leaving something in there for an hour at 350 and you're just baking a casserole through to get it hot and bubbly, go for it. That's no problem whatsoever. The times when it matters a lot, if you're cooking meat in the oven and you want it to a certain doneness, it's generally a good idea if you're following a recipe to really follow it and preheat the oven because otherwise your cook time is going to be off. But there's this really cool little. I don't go overboard on gadgets. I've lived in apartments, small condos. I live in an urban area my whole adult life, so I don't like grab every gadget that comes down the pike. But a really great one, and they're not that expensive. It's a meat thermometer, but it's digital. So you don't have to worry about keeping it calibrated, and you just, some of them, and honestly, I think this thing is the best thing ever. It's got a probe you stick into your roast or your meat or your chicken or whatever's in the oven, and then it has a little wire that runs outside of the oven door. Close the door, and you leave it on the counter, and you set it to the temperature you want. Because I think overcooked meat is one of those things that, you spent this money and this time, and it's like a big part of your meal, and then it's all dried out and not what you wanted. And the best way to ensure that is with something really accurate. And then I love the hands-offness of it. You can be off doing whatever you want to be doing, and it'll beep on the counter, and you'll know when your meat hit the right temperature. So for me, that's like a very important one to follow.
Got it. Okay, that makes perfect sense because I was like, yeah, that's always something important that one needs to look at, obviously, too, because, one has to consider the fact that if you're already starting right out of the gate and you're not doing proper prep sometimes, and some people, like I said, I rely on my microwave, but I try not to do it too much, and I don't make meals out of the microwave generally, folks. The other thing that I wanted to address before my last question, which is this. Oftentimes, because we all live in the same universe, we all go to the grocery store and we all can kind of see that there's been obviously a bit of a price increase in a number of different materials that we use in our kitchen regularly. So if you could just throw a tip or two out there for us in terms of how can we make a great meal and try to conserve on supplies in terms of not going out, because oftentimes, somebody says lasagna or something elaborate and they're like, oh, we have to put 75 different things into this recipe. You know what I mean? Is there a way in which that we can still do a top shelf serving of something and maybe conserve a little bit on what we're using or try and alternate, in which case then we're not going broke to feed our family? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're great. I do, and this isn't a plug for them in any way. I use store brand things all the time, and I know people love like Trader Joe's and Whole Foods 365. I think that there are plenty of ingredients that are excellent to use store brand. I've actually done a series of cooking videos. They're on my YouTube channel where I feature a certain store brand. Like I made this whole dinner with Trader Joe's ingredients, and if you're using like milk, butter, eggs, flour, like all of those like pasta staple ingredients, you can absolutely do that. The other one I mentioned earlier, people tend to hate on frozen fruits and veggies, and I get it. I grew up with the block. Remember that? Like, I don't even know if they make those anymore. That little rectangle block of frozen, like, peas and carrots or mixed vegetables. But current frozen vegetables, there are a lot of, and fruits, way better options, like really cool blends. Like I have no problem, say your lasagna example. If you wanted to do a really cool spinach lasagna, you can absolutely use frozen spinach in that. You don't have to, I mean, I've seen recipes where it calls for 3 $5 each plastic containers of organic spinach. You're spending $15 for like one tiny layer in your lasagna. Right there, I would say just go ahead and use the frozen. It's just as good. For like, I don't know if people know this, but frozen fruits and veggies are frozen like right after they're picked. So the thing you do have to be aware of is some of them get like watery and mushy. So you just want to, if you cook them and you're going to put them in a lasagna or a frittata or something like that, just drain them really well in a colander over your sink to make sure you don't have that like watery thing going on.
Now the last question. Oh, wait for this one. This will be a good one. Actually, this is just me being selfish because I need help, because I'm a chick and because I cook and because I know you're good at cooking and event planning. This is double duty with this last question, which is this. In the next 2 months, I am hosting 2 different independent film festivals in 2 different cities. The first one's in my hometown in Wisconsin, and the second one's in New York City. Now, New York City, as I'm sure you know, you're familiar with the Producers Club, I'm sure. No food, I don't have to make anything, etc., because obviously everything is there. But in Wisconsin, I've rented out a theater area, in which case I can bring in anything I want. So here we are, screening 22 movies. So here's my question to you. Obviously, popcorn and my chocolate truffles are a no-brainer. But if I was a smart woman, what different sorts of things would I try to offer people that aren't going to not be, well, first of all, messy, because you're in a theater, but more importantly, you're just convenient. You know what I mean? Because most people coming to a block of screenings are going to be sitting for an hour and a half, et cetera. You get the drill. So I'm just curious if you have any recommendations or suggestions on easy sorts of small snack things.
I do. I definitely do. I want to jump right to my mind. That would be so fun. All right. This is something you mentioned earlier, the strawberry cheesecake shots that are on my, I think I put the recipe on my Instagram at Cooking with Julie. I love, honestly, desserts and also dips and layered dips in small plastic cups. And I'm going to tell you why. I actually did a live cooking segment recently on a show called The Hostess Next Door, where I demoed my Mexican 7-layer dip in a mini cup. So what you do, you know that 7-layer dip that everyone loves? It's got like refried beans, and sour cream, and salsa and guac. You buy little adorable plastic cups. You can get them online or even in your supermarket. Make that same layered dip and just line them up on a white tray. I always put like a pretty fresh garnish on top. But what's great about that at a party or say for your screening, it can be made way ahead. You can hire somebody to help you do them so you're not sitting there doing all the layering. I don't know how many people you're going to have there, but it's like it would be some, or get your boys involved. I get my daughters involved all the time and things like that. And then you can put little crudité right in them. So everyone just grabs their cup and they have their individual dip and it's no mess. They can double dip and it's theirs to enjoy.
That's it?
Do you think that's a good idea? Do you want more? Oh, I can give you more. No.
I know you'll go. No, the only reason I asked that is just because, and certainly when we're off here, I can send you details if anything else comes to mind. And certainly know this much: even though I'm not cooking, you can certainly come to the New York City Film Festival because I'll be there for 3 days doing this whole gala film festival. It's exciting.
Yes.
I would love to incorporate you, but you're not in film. I'm like, she hasn't done anything film relative or TV relative. I mean, you have, but you know what I mean. This is primarily
I can't give any details. But in a week or two, I'm actually traveling out to Pennsylvania to film a sizzle reel for a pilot for an upcoming potential show. I'm going to see if it gets picked up. But I can't give any details about it yet. But I will say this: it is about cooking. It does have to do with cooking regionally and farm to table, but also touching on food allergens and how do you cook around that, or how do you make like really beautiful, delicious meals using like a creative use of ingredients. It's going to be really fun. I'm very excited about it.
That is awesome. I bet. Now, let me just throw this out there. We have a couple business things to do because, can you believe that we have been on air almost an hour and a half? This is wild, isn't it?
What?
I mean, it just goes so fast. Seriously. It's it's like an hour and 15 minutes in. That must be a successful venture because it's lasted this long. She didn't hang up. Nothing went awry here that I can tell of. So now we have to do the business sorts of things, which is, first of all, before I read off all the different ways to find Julie, I want to do 2 different things. Just to remind you, and of course I will get in contact with Nubia and send her this information as well. Basically, about 2 hours after the show is, because it's live now, so in about 2 hours from now, it'll become an archived episode. So basically, anybody, your family, your kids, anybody that wants to listen, give it 2 hours or so, and then I have it off of Blog Talk Radio. I also put all of the interviews on YouTube, so it goes on my YouTube channel. So it goes to both different places. And we'll send you copies of that so that you have that. So before I read off this long list of ways to find her, I don't want to forget to mention Nubia Duvall-Wilson, because without her, I wouldn't have a Julie on my show. She was kind of the middle person here. Nubia was on my phone not so long ago doing her own interview. So this is what I have to say, Nubia. She's fantastic. And now I'm jealous because you're both there and I'm not. And that totally sucks. But from me to you, Nubia, I just want to say your girl is lovely, as I said in The Way We Were. She's absolutely lovely and intelligent and just as charming and creative as I thought she was going to be. So thank you so much for hooking the two of us up.
Thank you.
I'm going to read off this list, and when I get done, just let me know if I forgot anything. Folks, her name is, and I forgot to say her last name, as a matter of fact, and I apologize for that. It's actually Julie Hartigan is her name. Her website is cookingwithjulie.com. She can be found on the following platforms. She is on Pinterest. She's on YouTube. She's on Facebook with the same name, which is Cooking with Julie. And she has a Twitter handle, which is at CookingWJulie. And I should mention that. Cooking W Julie on Facebook as well. And then, of course, I also found the juliehartigan.com website, as well as Instagram. She has two places, herself, which is Julie Hartigan, as well as Cooking W Julie. Is there any other place where people can find you?
No, you've nailed it. And it's funny, I was laughing about how to describe the Cooking W, and I'm like, wow, I really do want everything efficient, don't I? I don't even want people to have to type in Cooking With. They're just going to type in Cooking W Julie. So, yeah, that's my website. The Julie Hartigan website just takes you straight to the Cooking W Julie one. And the Julie Hartigan Instagram is me tromping around having fun with my girls and my boyfriend and, like, just having fun adventures. And the at Cooking W Julie one is where I'm posting tons of recipes and cooking tips that listeners might be interested in. So thank you.
Absolutely. No, without a doubt. Now, the last thing that I do on my show is that I get to tell you what I think of you. This is something that I set up a long time ago, and I do this because it's not written, so there's no script to this part. I research everything. I write everything. I usually try to pick my own guests, but now, these publicist people are like, you want to interview them. Oh, sure I do. Of course I jumped when I knew Julie was coming on the show. I'm like, of course I know her. I've read all her books, done all her stuff. Yeah, but I'm glad that I did, as a matter of fact. So this is the part where I read off to you from my brain, not anywhere else, because, like I said, it's not scripted. I do this so that folks get some idea of who you are or my impressions of you, both personally and professionally. In this way, they can walk away from here and say, heck yeah, I want to work with. So here we go. These are my impressions of Julie Hartigan. First of all, she probably didn't see the write-up to my show today, because I always do a write-up for Blog Talk Radio. And I wrote this, and I thought, you know what, she should use this as a marketing tool. So here it goes. First impression of her without even talking to her, I did this write-up, and I said, what do I want my folks to know? This is the predominant thing I said about you. She is a whiz at whipping up extraordinary entrees. I don't know if I could have said that any other way or any better way, but this is what I have discovered about Julie. The first time I looked at her and I saw how radiant she was, I was already intimidated. The fact that I had to talk to somebody who probably cooks 120% better and looks 120% better doing it is always very intimidating. But, however, when I sat down and I took a long time to research her and look at social media and go through her website, read her recipes, what I came up with is she is a dynamo as it relates to putting together delicious delectables for other people. Why? I am a true believer that any person who is top-notch at what they do has to have three qualities, those three golden three things. First of all, I talk about this all the time, which is having a passion for what you do, having a passion for your own life, and most importantly, having the knowledge and the know-how to realize that you must work hard to play hard. You have all three of these components. First of all, I have to say how impressive that is, because in this industry that doesn't always happen. Second of all, you're not just a woman that runs around and says, I love food. You actually are knowledgeable about your craft, about your product, and about what you want to accomplish for yourself and the businesses that you work with. Some of her creations are nothing short of just unimaginably gorgeous, for lack of a better term. I've seen them. You should see them. I've given you all the ways to see them. One of the nicest parts about this interview today is that right from the back end, the front end, the whole 9 yards, I felt like I knew this person from the get-go. Those make for the best interviews because there is a comfort established. And most importantly, I would hang out with her even if she didn't cook for me or give me wine, although both would probably be very preferred. The fact that she's from the land of Sinatra could not hurt anyone because I'm a huge Eno fan and a huge Sinatra fan. So this is what I can tell you, Julie. I wasn't feeling too terrific when we did the show earlier today because I was getting prepped and I'm thinking, I feel like crap. I want to lay on this couch. And now you got me. Not only did you get me excited and motivated about cooking, but we put together a wonderful interview where people learned about their kitchens, they learned about food, and most importantly, they learned about this extraordinary person on the other end of the phone. So my hope is that I've helped you, that I've done my job well.
And,
that,
oh my gosh, I'm so
I do hope,
blushing and saying thank you. I want to fly out there and make tea right now, by the way. I hope you feel better. Sorry, I'm sure everybody's rooting for you to not get the cold so you can have a fun weekend. But it was such a pleasure being on and meeting you and talking to you. And I really, it is all like absolutely the real thing. I love what I do. I love getting to share it with other people, and I'm really lucky to have such like a wonderful life. And thank you. It was like thank you for all of those wonderful things you said about me. It was really great to be on and meet you.
Well, definitely, and certainly know that don't be a stranger. I mean, if you want to come on and promote something else, I always tell people the show is always open to you. And most importantly, like I said, October 26th to the 28th. If you find yourself out and about and around and you're already in New York City, there's this great film festival by this really kind of kick-butt journalist. So you should come and say hello. I would love it.
Definitely,
Yay.
Definitely, I will. Yay.
Cool. All right, Julie. I will let you go to have a great weekend. I'm going to sign off with my buds here so I can have a nice weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
All right, dear. Bye-bye. Tell me she wasn't fabulous, right? One more time, I am not going to lie about this one. Nubia, you got another great client on your hands here. Nubia Duval-Wilson is the individual who set me up with her. She runs a business among many other things that she does, and multiple businesses, I might add. But go ahead and check out some of her work at CielioConsulting.biz, and that's spelled CIELO consulting.biz. One more time for Julie's information, it's Julie Hartigan, let me just make sure I have this right, Hartigan, and that would be websites cookingwithjulie.com, and don't forget it's cookingwjulie.com, and juliehartigan.com. She's on Pinterest. She is on Facebook and Twitter. Both of them are Cooking W Julie. She is on YouTube and also on Instagram, 2 places, as herself, of course, Julie Hartigan, and Cooking with Julie. Stay tuned later today. I'm actually dashing out, but I'm going to find out if we are going to be hosting one more show this weekend. And if so, that would be the Emmy Award, or I should say Emmy nominated, because we don't know if they're winning until after this weekend. Some of the cast members from one of the Emmy nominated shows might very well be coming on my show this weekend. Don't want to forget to remind everybody again, if you're out in Heartland Sunday from 10 to 1 o'clock, Heartland Farmers Market on Pauling Avenue. Literally cannot miss it. There's a parking lot established there, tons of goodies from handmade soaps to Norwex to homemade pretzels to produce, you name it, they've got it. So please make it a point to get out there. I will be out at the Cedarburg Wine Festival. Marcel's playing, among many other great folk. Get your best to get out there and enjoy the weather. Thanks again to everybody. I cannot thank you enough for listening in today. Have yourself a great weekend, and check the show page for details. Take care.
Hello, everyone. Domino's here. There's a sound you should get used to. That's right, we love our customers, and we're not above a little kissing up, and that's why we have a ridiculously good deal. We're giving you half off all pizzas when you order online. Go to Domino's.com, select the coupon, and get all pizzas for 50% off menu price. But hurry, it's for 1 week only, July 10th through July 16th. Oh, yes, we did.
Online only. Limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Offer applies to the pizza portion of your order only.
Hello, everyone. Domino's here. There's a sound you should get used to. That's right, we love our customers, and we're not above a little kissing up, and that's why we have a ridiculously good deal. We're giving you half off all pizzas when you order online. Go to Domino's.com, select the coupon, and get all pizzas for 50% off menu price. But hurry, it's for 1 week only, July 10th through July 16th. Oh, yes, we did.
Online only. Limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Offer applies to the pizza portion of your order only.